Imagine a world where, instead of standard births, parents can subscribe to unique genetic kits for their future children, choosing their appearance, intelligence, and health from a catalog of future possibilities. This concept transforms a natural process into a controlled service, where technology provides the opportunity to create ideal babies, far surpassing current standards. This approach not only raises great hopes for the eradication of hereditary diseases, but also raises serious ethical questions about the nature of humanity and the limits of human intervention. Genetic subscription opens a new era in medicine, allowing you to choose your future child's genetic traits in advance, as if creating an individual development plan before birth. In this concept, medicine ceases to be merely a treatment for diseases and becomes a preventive service that guarantees health and longevity from the beginning of life. Modern technologies make it possible to control the gene pool, which promises to surpass all conventional methods of birth and prevention, maintaining the health of future generations at a level that previously seemed unattainable. Imagine how gene editing will allow expectant parents to create their children in a laboratory with complete control over their genetic characteristics, without the need for a traditional birth or even pregnancy. This technology makes it possible to correct genes in advance, eliminating hereditary diseases and creating desired traits, much like editing a text before publication. Ultimately, traditional childbirth could be completely replaced by a process of digital genetic engineering, turning the natural act of birth into the high-tech launch of a project to create an ideal personality. CRISPR technology is a revolutionary tool that can make precise changes to human DNA in minutes, much like editing the blueprint for life. Its possibilities are endless, from eliminating genetic diseases to creating new desired traits, opening the door to creating perfect children. In the process of these scientific advances, CRISPR is transforming from a laboratory development into a powerful tool that can radically change the foundations of human evolution and our future. Genetic engineering promises to dramatically improve the quality of life, guaranteeing disease-free health, eliminating hereditary diseases before they appear, and enabling the development of intelligence and abilities according to individual needs. Thanks to these technologies, future generations can be more resilient, intelligent, and attractive, meeting the highest standards of society. This progress transforms human existence, making everyone a participant in the process of creativity and self-improvement, where each person can choose their best qualities in advance. However, behind the grandiose possibilities of genetic engineering lie serious ethical dilemmas and dangers, as intervention in the genome can have unpredictable consequences, altering the balance of nature and causing unexpected mutations. The risk of intervention without a full understanding of the long-term effects jeopardizes not only individual health, but also the future of humanity. In this uncertainty lies the danger that technology could become an instrument of inequality and social injustice, exacerbating the divide between rich and poor and provoking moral debates about the human right to control one's genetic heritage. Genetic subscription implies that future generations will be created according to pre-established programs, with the possibility of constantly updating and adjusting their genetic makeup based on new technologies and knowledge. This transforms human birth into a dynamic process, where each child is the result of choice and personalization, rather than random nature. In such a future, the concept of genetic identity will become flexible and modifiable, becoming an organic part of our lives and culture, where control over inheritance becomes the constant improvement of the individual. Genetic technologies promise to radically transform family traditions, transforming the birth of children from a spiritual and emotional act into a controlled and technological process, where the choice of genetic traits becomes part of family rituals. In parallel with this change, the values associated with inheritance and uniqueness may give way to the idea of creating ideal heirs according to the parent's design. Ultimately, traditional family ties and ideas about inheritance are transforming into something more flexible, controllable, and technologically driven, raising questions about the true nature of kinship and its implications. Genetic signatures have the potential to significantly reduce the incidence of hereditary and acquired diseases, as timely gene editing before birth or in the early years can completely eliminate the genetic predisposition. This will pave the way to longer, healthier lives for millions of people, eliminating the need for constant medical interventions and treatments for chronic diseases. Ultimately, a genetically signed future promises a more painless, active, and prolonged existence, where disease will no longer be a fatal sentence, but a goal of elimination and prevention. The ability to create only children through genetic signatures raises serious ethical and social questions related to the idea of perfection and the diversity of human nature. This practice can lead to elite blaming and the reinforcement of social inequality, where ideal children will become the object of a race for perfection, and natural diversity will become a constantly disappearing value. This controversial aspect raises concerns that the creation of only children could destroy natural balance and generate social conflicts, conforming individuals to externally imposed ideals. In the society of the future, the role of parents and children will change radically, as parents will be able to create and personalize their children at their own discretion, becoming a kind of genetic architects of the future generation. This blurs the traditional boundaries of responsibility and connection, turning education into a technological process and love and empathy into values that can give way to genetic optimization. As a result, society will face new ethical, moral, and psychological questions about the nature of kinship, responsibility, and what it means to be truly human. Ethical dilemmas in the field of genetic signatures challenge fundamental human rights, as the question of consent and the possibility of free choice becomes a complex issue where control over genes can become an instrument of manipulation or pressure. The need to balance technological progress and moral values complicates decision-making, as intervention in the genome is associated with uncertain consequences for the individual and society. Ultimately, we face the most important question: how to preserve human freedom and dignity in an era where the genetic code can be edited at will, violating traditional moral halos. The cost of genetic signatures can reach millions, turning the possibility of gene editing into a privilege of the wealthy and creating a new social divide, where access to such technologies is limited by financial means. This calls into question equality and justice, as wealth determines not only material goods, but also the quality of human heritage and future generations. Consequently, the genetic subscription economy becomes a complex issue regarding the distribution of resources and life chances for different segments of society, raising ethical and philosophical dilemmas about the price of perfection. A reproductive revolution is already underway, from ecological methods to the genetics of future children, where every aspect of creating a new life can be controlled and optimized. This transformation is reshaping traditional ideas about parenthood, transforming it from a spiritual and emotional act into a technological process based on scientific standards and design. As a result, we are entering an era in which the natural rhythm of birth gives way to the vast possibilities of genetics, which will radically change the face of human evolution. In the age of technology, the concept of genetic identity and personality takes on new dimensions, as gene editing and creation will directly affect who we become and how we perceive ourselves. While traditionally, personality was determined by a multitude of factors from our inner world and experience, technology is beginning to shape our essence at the level of the genetic code, where heredity and self-improvement become controllable parameters. As a result, the human future will become a mixture of innate qualities and carefully tuned traits, prompting profound reflection on the true nature of individuality and its limits. The possibility of genetic engineering creates the danger of increasing social inequality, as access to these technologies is often limited by economic considerations, turning modified children into representatives of the social elite. This division can reinforce existing class barriers, creating a divide between natural and artificially created individuals and threatening to destroy values of equality and justice. Ultimately, genetic engineering risks becoming an instrument of social segregation, where the future is divided according to indicators of genetic perfection, which can lead to new forms of discrimination and conflict. With the development of genetic modification, new laws and regulations are emerging that must govern the use and access to these powerful technologies, seeking to protect society and prevent abuse. The creation of a legal framework is becoming a crucial step in protecting human rights, ensuring the ethical use of genetic resources, and defining the limits of intervention in the human genome. Consequently, future regulations will play a key role in shaping standards of accountability and oversight, enabling society to manage innovation and maintain the technological revolution within the framework of morality and the law. Genetic signatures have the potential to radically affect human evolution, accelerating the development of new traits and adaptations that are deliberately designed, rather than randomly generated by natural selection. This technological manipulation could lead to the creation of new human strains and types, altering our biological and social nature on a global scale. As a result, we will enter an era in which evolution will no longer be a random process but the result of human choice and orchestration, raising significant philosophical and ethical dilemmas about the future of our species. Philosophical reflections on the meaning of being human are particularly acute in the era of genetic signatures, when the boundaries between nature and technology are blurred. Questions about the true essence of personhood, dignity, freedom, and responsibility take center stage, forcing us to reflect on human purpose in a world where perfectly adapted and modifiable children can be created. In such a future, understanding ourselves and our uniqueness becomes complex as we confront a new, technologically created concept of the human soul and humanity, prompting profound debates and an internal search for the meaning of existence. The question of when genetic signatures will become a reality is a growing challenge for the entire modern world, as technologies advance at a dizzying speed and the first prototypes are already attracting the interest of scientists and investors. However, their widespread use and safe implementation will require decades of research, regulatory decisions, and ethical debates to avoid unpredictable consequences. Time will tell whether these technologies will become part of our everyday lives or remain a curiosity of the future of which we can only dream. Horrible dystopian scenarios are becoming increasingly real threats if genetic signature technologies fall into the wrong hands or are used without due control, from the creation of superhumans to the massive manipulation of heritage in dictatorial scenarios. Fearing abuse, we face the possibility of the loss of morality, the rise of elitist classes, and the disappearance of the natural diversity that defines humanity. In these dangerous horizons, the massive use of genetic engineering can become an instrument of oppression, deprivation of liberty, and the destruction of the foundations of democracy and human rights, which requires an extremely responsible approach and global regulation. To prepare for a future with genetic technologies, it is necessary to develop broad knowledge and an informed attitude toward ethical issues, as only an informed society can make informed decisions. The formulation of global norms and responsibilities is important, as technologies require collective control and a moral standard to avoid abuse and dangerous consequences. Ultimately, the success of the future depends on our ability to learn to cooperate, consider ethical limits, and preserve humanity in the era of technological revolution. Technological progress is an integral part of our future, which promises a revolution in our understanding of human beings, nature, and society, but requires an intelligent balance between innovation and morality. We need to integrate new opportunities consciously and ethically to avoid dangerous consequences and preserve human dignity. Ultimately, our task is to use the achievements of science in ways that benefit future generations and contribute to creating a world where technology coexists in harmony with our values. Subscribe now to stay up to date with the most relevant and surprising discoveries of the future, as technology advances rapidly and every new piece of news can change our understanding of the world. Don't miss the opportunity to be among the first to learn about the revolutionary discoveries, risks, and insights that will shape our future. Join us. Together we can understand and prepare for a world where technology changes everything, from human life to the very essence of existence.